Hey there, what's up? My name is Jeff Lathrop, and in this video, wanted to do a semi-detailed walkthrough on the color page in Davinci Resolve. There are 5 sections I plan to cover, from a couple of different layout options, to establishing a fixed node tree to work with on our project, applying that node tree to all the clips on our project, organizing the footage with a couple of different clip options, and then using some different reference and monitoring tools to evaluate our grade as we go. Now, one last thing I want to mention before we get started. While I'm definitely using the color page a little bit differently as a professional colorist than I was as a hobbyist, I'm still learning new things every day and can absolutely learn from any tips and tricks you might want to leave in the comments below. There are so many ways to do things in Davinci Resolve. I just wanted to share a couple of the techniques that are working for me. Okay, now that we've got the color page up, let's go ahead and talk about some of our basic display options. This is not going to be a comprehensive deep dive. This is just going to be some of our basic options that we have to fine-tune our layout. So you can see in the middle here, we've got all of the clips that are currently on our timeline, and they're numbered. In this case, it's going to be 1 through 46, because I have 46 clips in this project. You can turn your clips on or off by pushing the clips button here on top of the viewer. You can also turn on and off a timeline view with this timeline button on the top right. And as you scroll left to right, wherever you stop on your timeline, it's going to land on the corresponding clip on your clips section. You could turn your clips off and just scrub your timeline, or you could have them both on, or you could have your clips on and your timeline off. You can also resize your viewer as you need to, which is going to affect the amount of space you have over here on your node graph. You can turn the node graph on and off with a nodes button, but you're almost always going to want to have your nodes up because the color page works with nodes to make the color adjustments. So if you turn your nodes off, it's going to be kind of hard to know what you're doing with your color adjustments. Now to the next step over here, we have a button to turn our effects library on or off, which if you want more room for extra nodes, you can turn your effects off. And if you want to use an effect, obviously you're going to want to turn on the library. So you can scroll through your effects here, grab whichever one you want, drag and drop it onto your node. And once you have an effect on your node, you now have not only library option, but also settings option to be able to tweak the settings for that effect. You can turn the effect on and off with a slider. Then you can delete it and you have all your reset options here. If you make an adjustment and you don't like it, just go ahead and reset. I'm not going to talk too much about effects right now. We'll talk about node tree later. So I'm going to delete the effect. And I'm just going to leave this simple node tree alone that I have for now. So we can turn clips on or off. We can turn a timeline view on or off. Our node graph, we can turn on or off. And our effects box, we can turn on or off. Those are the basics I'm going to talk about for this top section. And when it comes to our scopes down here, you have a drop down to go between all the different scopes that are available. Typically, I'm going between my waveform so that I can monitor exposure adjustments. And then I'm going to go over to my vector scope if I wanted to watch my saturation or my color adjustments. One thing to note about your waveform and your vector scope, notice when I mouse over my image here, I have Qualifier Focus enabled, Display Qualifier Focus, and this 3-dot drop-down button here, Display Qualifier Focus. But as I'm scrolling through my footage, my little qualifier doesn't seem to be responding properly. Sometimes Davinci Resolve seems to glitch out with its qualifier focus. All I had to do was reset my qualifier pen to qualifier here, which it already was. But now, as I move my qualifier pen around my viewer image, it's showing me the corresponding IRE level on my waveform there. And this is one of the most powerful tools to fine-tune, okay, here's my sun, and it's blowing out right there at the top of my image. I can see that flat spot. And even if I raise my gain or lower my gain, I still have the sun blowing out because it's too bright. Okay, so that was a cool little example to show how the qualifier focus works. And when you're on your vector scope, you have a qualifier focus as well. So if you ever have that issue where your qualifier focus doesn't seem to be working properly, mouse over here to your viewer interaction options, and make sure you're selecting Qualifier. And you can see there's other options here, which we'll talk about that later. And if it's off, you just have your mouse and you're not doing anything. Another little side note here, if you have a middle mouse click, you can, or like a scroll wheel on your mouse, you can zoom in and out of your viewer. And if you press your mouse wheel, you can move the viewer image around. You also have a percentage shower here, so you can either fit, or say we zoomed way out to do something else with our image, you can press Z, and that's going to full size your image size to fit for whatever your viewer is. So if our viewer is tiny, we can press Z to fit it. And if we have a big one, again, we can press Z to fit it. Okay, so back to our scopes. I often go between my waveform and my vector scope, which are my two most used scopes. I've shown how to enable our Qualifier Focus, which is all I'm going to really talk about for the options with our scopes here. You can go to this little menu icon here, and you could colorize your waveform, which might be kind of handy, but I generally don't use that. I just like a straight up exposure information here. Something I might do, however, you can press this pop-out button, and you can enable your scopes to show more than one scope at a time. So if you show just one scope with this selector here on the top right, you get a really big, nice waveform, or vector scope, or histogram, or whatever you want to show. If you select this button, you can show 2 scopes, 4 scopes, or even 9 scopes. And you can move this over to a second screen, or you can leave it up here if you just want to do some monitoring. And something that I will do every now and then is I will size this to fit right here. And then I'll pull up 2 scopes, and I'll look at my waveform and my vector scope at the same time and get a good sense of what's going on with my image. And here, with our vector scope, we can see this image is living kind of in a cooler region in here between blue and cyan. So I might go to my balance node in that case and move things over to a warmer direction. And now I can see I'm a little bit more balanced. And if I press the number 2 button here on my balance node, your nodes are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sequentially. If you press the number of your node, it's going to turn that node on or off. You can also do Control D to turn it on or off. You have an option to reset your node down here. So I only made an adjustment in my primaries. I can reset it here, or you could right-click your node and reset node grade. Okay, so that's a note about using your scopes and where to place them. And you can either pop it back into its home by closing it with the X, and it's going to jump back to its dock. Or if it's popped out, maybe it's on a different screen, you can press this Return to Home button right here, and you're going to get your scopes back home. Something else I'll mention really quickly to be careful with on your scopes, if you do have a middle mouse wheel, you can scroll your scopes up and down, and if you push on your middle mouse wheel, you can move your scopes around. So if your scope ever gets slightly askew or off to the side like this, just remember that you have middle mouse options with your scopes. And let's see, does this work on our vector scope? No, it doesn't. So that's going to be a waveform issue to watch out for. Okay, so we've talked about turning our clips on and off, our timeline, our nodes, our effects library, how to go between our library and our settings when we're looking at our effects, and a couple other small details to do with our layout. We also talked about using our qualifier tool to see exactly where certain parts of the image is living on our scopes. That information is going to help us fine-tune our adjustments. So say we wanted our skin to be at a certain target level, we could mouse over with our qualifier. This is sitting almost about 50. Skin generally looks good anywhere between 38 and 70, so that's going to be in the ballpark. That also works with our vector scope. We can see what color certain parts of our image is living in on the vector scope. The next topic I want to cover is working with our node tree. One of the most important methods for getting consistent results is going to be having the same node tree on all of your clips, which you can see we have that going on right now. However, when you build a node tree on one of your clips, it doesn't automatically transfer to any of your other clips. So let me reset my project really quick and I can show you how to transfer your node tree from one clip to all the rest of them. Okay, so I've got my project reset. We're over here on clip number 1, and as I click over to clip number 2, you can see we're back to the default single node with no information. And as I'm going through my clips, that's how your project is going to start off. Now, if you've built a node tree that you like on your first clip, you can select your second clip, scroll all the way to the end of your project, hold down Shift, click on your very last clip, number 46 in this case, go all the way back to the beginning, hover over the clip that you want to copy from, right-click it, choose Apply Grade. It'll ask you if you want to replace your existing grades, and you do. So click Replace. And now we can see this node tree from clip number 1 is on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've effectively copied our node tree from our first clip to all the rest of the clips in our project. Now on this project, since I only had to copy it to 45 clips, it was pretty quick. I'm working on a feature film right now that has 540 clips, and that I had to go at about 50 clip chunks because when I tried to copy my grade from my first clip to all 500 remaining clips, the system really got slow and Davinci Resolve did the Windows not responding thing. And I think it would have worked if I just gave it enough time, but making sure that as you copy your node tree to multiple clips, you're doing it in reasonable chunks. So like I said, don't try to copy a node tree from clip number 1 to clips 2 through 600. You're going to want to go maybe in 50 clip segments there. Okay, so that's how we were able to do this by building up our node tree on clip number 1 and then copying it to all of our other clips. But what if we think we're going to use this node tree in a future project? Wouldn't it be nice to save that and not have to rebuild this every time? Well, you can do that. Go ahead up to the top left here and open your gallery. And you're going to have Stills and Power Grades album. And to save a still, you can right-click your image, grab a still. And let's go ahead and delete all of our nodes. Now when we drag and drop our still, all that node tree information was saved within our still and transferred onto our clip. Now that's pretty cool, but stills are more of a reference tool. Power grades are where you're going to want to save your node tree information like that. Now the difference between stills and power grades, stills are only going to be available in the project which they were saved from, and a power grade is going to be available in all your projects in Davinci Resolve. There is one thing to keep in mind. If you are trying to copy a power grade to multiple clips, you can't drag and drop it. You're going to have to use the method where we shift, select all your clips, and then copy it from a previous clip that has that node information already on it. So let's go ahead and reset the whole project. We'll go through this one more time. Delete all our nodes, add one single node. So clip number 1 has our node tree, clip number 2 does not. And I want to get the rest of the project reset. So I'm going to select clip number 3, scroll to the end of my project, shift, select number 46. I've now highlighted all the nodes that I wanted. I've highlighted all the clips that I wanted. And I'm going to middle mouse click on clip number 2. Replace. Okay, so now my whole project is back reset to default with no node trees on there. Now let's see what happens if we shift, select clips 2 through 46, drag and drop our power grade. It's only applied to the actual clip that I had selected, not any of the other clips that we highlighted. So if you have a power grade saved from a previous project, you can go onto a clip that doesn't have the information yet, drag and drop it, and then you're still going to need to go and select the other clips that you want to transfer that over to, and right-click Apply Grade. That's how you're going to be able to transfer your node tree from one clip to many. Now, when you first get started in Davinci Resolve, I'm pretty sure it only defaults with a single stills album. So you're going to need to right-click in the stills section, and you can add more stills albums, or you can add power grade albums. That's how you're going to be able to enable the ability to use the power grades. And if you want to rename this power grade album, just select it, press F2, and now you can rename this whatever you want. So we can go to my node trees album, and I have a couple of different node trees already built up. Like this one, Lathrop Power Grade, I can drag and drop that onto my footage. And here we see I have a much more robust node tree. Let's turn off my effects so we can see the whole thing. And there we go. If you want to learn a little bit more about this node tree, you can check out my previous video. I did like a 25-minute deep dive on how to build this and how to use it. And there's a lot of good information in that video. So go ahead and check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about this one. Also, I'm offering a free copy of this. If you hit me up in the email, I'll just send you a copy of it and you can use it. But really, you can just watch the video and build it yourself. And not only will you have the power grade if you build it yourself, you'll have the knowledge on how to build a power grade. Okay, so you can either build your own node tree and apply it to all your clips, or you can work with a power grade and then apply it to all your clips. Something else I should mention here about our node graph, you have a clip level. So we're making adjustments to each of our clips. See right here, it says clip. If we drop this down, we have an option to go over to our timeline. Now you can see there's nothing here. Let's add a node. And as I go clip by clip on our timeline level, let's make a big exposure adjustment. Now all my clips have gotten that adjustment. So if you want to affect all your clips at one time, you do it here on the timeline level. And if you want to affect each clip individually, drop down to your clip level, and then you can make an adjustment just to this clip and not this one. So clip by clip, you want to be on clip level. If you need to make any adjustments to all your clips at once, you can do it on the timeline level. Something else I'll mention about being able to affect multiple clips at the same time is working with groups. So let's say our first 4 clips here are going to be a group, and you can either shift select or you can control select. And when you press control and use your mouse, you can select clips out of order. So back to working in groups, let's go ahead and shift select our first 4 clips here. Let's say these are an intro. You can right click those, add into a new group. Let's call this intro. And now, instead of just having clip level adjustments, we have group pre-clip. We have our clip, so we can go clip by clip by clip at the clip level. Then we have group post-clip. So let's go ahead and make a big adjustment here. All of my group now, I've gotten some red color going on, but none of my other clips have that. Now, if I want to make a timeline adjustment, I can still do that, which is going to still now affect all of my clips. And you can start to segment your control so I can affect my entire group or my entire timeline. So that's a pretty handy way to start getting some really fine control, and I guess more organized control. So it enables these extra node graphs up here. So here we're in group post clip. Let's reset that. And now my whole entire group has been reset. So let's go with my actor here and let's give him a group. So let's say actor, control select, control select, control select. Okay, so you wouldn't really do this on a real project, but let's add him. Go back to my clip level here, right click, add into a new group, actor 1. Okay, so now let's say I want my actor, all of his scenes, maybe want those to be blue. And when we go to our intro scene, maybe we want all those to be red. So now we've got a red intro and a blue actor. And we were able to change all those clips at once by working in groups. And we still have a timeline control. And let's say we want to go with crazy saturation. So now we've saturated both groups and all of the clips that are not even part of a group. So timeline gets absolutely everything. And then groups, you can affect entirely with your group post clip or group pre-clip. And then you can still go clip individually by being on the clip level. So that's a big bird's eye overview of how to work in groups. And there's another really cool thing we'll talk about with groups right now. So let's reset our blue group. Let's go to our intro. We can reset that. And let's go over to our timeline. We'll reset our timeline so everything now is kind of back to normal. And let's take a look at our clips button here. Remember, we can turn our clips on and off. We can also use this drop down for some organizational methods. So if we go to our grouped option, I can select intro, and now only my intro clips are showing because I've grouped these 4 shots and labeled them as intro. So this can help me stay focused if I want to work scene by scene and not get distracted by all the other clips in my project. So let's go back down to grouped. Maybe we want to switch to those actor shots. Now we've got all my shots with the actor on them. And I can actually see, oh, these do not have a node tree on them. I'm on my clip level adjustments. This has the color space transforms in and out, but these do not. So let's go ahead and select 3 through 7 with our shift select. We'll middle mouse click on number 2. And now we've gotten that node tree onto the rest of our group. And I love working in groups because it really helps you get a coherent look scene by scene. So let's go back to all clips and enable all the rest of the clips on our timeline to be shown. Now, another method with this clips organizational tool, let's go ahead and select a couple of our intro shots, but I don't want these 2 maps. Let's get some actor shots. And I can go with my clips dropdown and I can choose selected clips. And now I can only see my selected clips. So there's a lot of power here to organize and stay focused with different clip options or showing different clips. Let's go back to all clips. You could have this show your graded clips, ungraded clips. See, all my clips right now have a grade on them, so that's good. If you right-click a clip, you can change the clip color. So let's say this structure was really hard for me to figure out the look. Maybe I'll color this as orange. And let's say this one was also giving me trouble. We'll color this one orange. And now instead of grouping these, I'm just flagging them, which I shouldn't use that term because you could also put a colored flag on that. But let's go to my clip dropdown, clip color. Let's show only the orange clips. Now I've got these 2 clips that were problem clips, and I can really focus on getting my look nailed for these 2. And then I can jump back into all clips or another group and start to really feel like I know what I'm doing. And if you're working on a bigger project that maybe it's got an outdoor scene and an indoor scene and you want to treat those differently, this organizational method is really going to help you stay focused on that. So the last topic I want to cover in this video is a little bit on shot matching and how to reference our own work and analyze our grade as we go so we can have a sense of the big picture while we're working through things. Now, up in your viewer, you have a couple different reference options. The first one being image wipe, which if you press it and then select a still, it's going to show your still image and the clip that you're on side by side with an image wipe option. If you choose the next option, which is called split screen, you have a drop-down enabled where you can show selected still images. And now we've got our still image and our selected clip side by side. Our third option here is the highlight viewer. And this is handy for doing power windows and pulling qualifiers. So first, let's start with the power window. Let's go ahead and drag a power window onto our image, which we just enabled a circular power window here. And if we press our highlight viewer, we can now see the part of the image that is going to be affected by our power window. So if we turn this off and we make an exposure adjustment, we can see that the part within the window is getting brighter. And if we enable our highlight viewer, we can refine that selection, and it helps us just get a better image of what's going on. As you start to feather out a power window, it might be a little bit harder to see where the edges are really going to and which parts of your images are being affected. So that highlight button can come in handy for that reason. Now, the highlight viewer is also going to be handy for showing when you're using your selection or your qualifier tool to help identify what parts of the image you're actually selecting. So let's say, for example, I just wanted to work on the brightness and the sun. I can grab that with my qualifier, and you can see it's done something here on my HSL qualifier tool, but it's really not clear what I've selected. So if I push my highlight button, I can see just these bright parts of my image have been selected. And if I go back over to my primary wheels and make an exposure adjustment, I've only affected those areas. We'll turn our highlight viewer off, and we can see, all right, we're affecting just that part of the image that we've selected. Let's go over to clip number 6, and let's pull a selection on this blue. And then let's turn our highlight viewer on, and we can see, yeah, that's got mostly the blue, but a bunch of the rest of the image has been selected as well. And so we can refine that down to where it's just mostly our blue being shown. And then if we go make an exposure adjustment, we're mostly affecting those bluer regions, or the regions that are tinted blue. So highlight viewer is really handy to understand what you're doing, probably more so with your qualifier tool than with your windows, because power windows, pretty obvious to see what you're working on here. And if you're having trouble pulling a clean qualifier, you can use a window and a qualifier at the same time, and then your window is going to limit your qualifier selection to only within its window. So if we turn our window off, we can see much more of our image has been included in our qualification selection. Window on, we're starting to stay finer tuned just to the jacket here. Okay, so that's a quick little basic on these 3 tools, but let's go back over here to selected still images. What happens if we use Control? Let's select all of our actor shots again and use our drop down, and let's choose selected clips. Now I'm looking at all the clips that I've selected, and that can be really handy to get a general vibe of what your scene is doing. So we can see our top 2 images are much darker and cooler than these bottom 2. And then I would know, hey, I want to go to these 2 clips here and start to make some adjustments on those so that this forest scene is going to be living within the same world. Now, I have a couple stills here from my stills album 2, and I can drag and drop these on, and now, oh, great, now we finally got some color on there. But let's undo that. Let's go back to our split screen option, and we can choose selected still grades. So now I have this grade with the color on it, and I can audition it side by side with my clip before I even applied it on. If I drag and drop that still onto my image, then they're the same. So that's kind of a nice way to go through different stills that you have saved or different power grades and see which one's going to work the best. Now, typically a power grade would just be a fixed node tree, and it shouldn't have any color information on it, whereas a still might be something that you've already worked on in your image. So let's jump out of here. So let's say I've got this still that I like. I'm going to drag and drop it on here. Let's go to my next actor shot, and we could drag and drop that still on. Let's select both of these clips. Let's use selected clips, and I can see these are not matching at all. So this is a really handy tool, even more so than the split screen, to see, how are your scenes progressing as you're working through your grade. There's a lot of different options here, so play around with this drop down on your split screen and just have fun with it. If we go back to image wipe, I can see that these are, again, not the same, and I'm going to want to adjust those to get them into a closer world. Anyways, this is not a grading tutorial. This is just kind of an overview on some of the viewer tools and how we can use image wipe versus split screen versus highlight. and really get a sense of what we're doing. But I really like using the split screen, and when we're on selected clips, we can kind of see how's our scene progressing, and do we like what we're going with? And maybe we want to compare our intro to our actor. And look, this footage is all over the place right now, so I would want to spend some major time to get these. Either we're going from a bright, open field into a darker forest, and we're getting some feeling and some vibe and some mood going into our scene, or we're trying to keep everything consistent. Either way, this tool is really handy. Okay, so that's the basic walkthrough of the color page for today. I know this was kind of a detailed walkthrough rather than a good deep dive on any of these specific sections. And if you have questions or comments, please leave them below. I would love the feedback. And if you think it might be a better format for me to just stick to one section at a time and go all the way through that section, maybe it'd be a little bit of a shorter video, and maybe it'd be a better video as well, sticking to one topic instead of trying to include this many topics and go over the whole color page in a single video. But this is just an experiment to see what's going to work for me in these tutorials and see what you guys respond to as far as watching this stuff and seeing if it's valuable. So anyways, comments below. If you want a copy of my node tree, I'll leave a link to my email in the description, and I'll hope to see you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.